Okay, so today we are going to look at what's the best means possible to make that first impression count. Last week's lecture was all about writing a CV that makes you that first impression, making you a great first impression. Now this week we are going to take it to the next level, assuming you had written a CV that works. Now, out of that 250 CVs, now you had got selected for an interview. Okay. So the person from the HR or, the particular department calls you up and says, hello, Tharindu, or hello, Gayashini. I am, so-and-so from this company, and, I'm calling for this position. And we would like to invite you for an interview on this day so that we can select whether you're suitable for the position. All right. So you're on the other hand saying, all right, okay. So when are you planning to have this? Then you check whether, it's possible for you to go. Right. So that is making the first impression count. Why? Because now you made a first impression, you need to make it count. You have to make use of that first impression to get that job or the position. Okay. All right. So particularly interviews, this would be the new normal, with masks and, physical interviews conducted like this. We also have certain interviews that we conducted as physical with all the safety precautions in place. Okay. Before I go into tips about, interviews and all these things, I would like to, give you a certain tip here. If you are invited for an interview nowadays, okay, during the pandemic, if you are invited for an interview, or, assuming this pandemic goes on for a while, if you are invited for a physical interview, the question I want to ask is, you can see that they are wearing the mask, right? So I want you to, give an honest answer from your heart. If you are going for an interview, a physical interview, obviously, you will wear the mask when you're going in the bus or, the car or whatever, right? Getting to the interview, you would wear the mask. But when you go inside that interview room, from your heart, tell me, would you rather wear the mask or would you not wear the mask? I only have 2 today, so both of you need to speak up. The question is very simple. In the interview, would you wear the mask or would you not wear the mask?
Not wearing a mask.
Not wearing a mask. Gayashini?
I think they must wear a mask.
All right. So now we have contradictory answers. What is contradictory? Means opposing answers. Contradictory means opposing answers. Tharindu is saying she would not wear the mask. And Gayashini is saying, I would wear the mask. So what is the correct one? So depends on the situation, but as of now, given the situation about all these Delta nonsense and pandemic hype and vaccines, getting into hospital, quarantine, everything, the best thing you can do is always wear the mask. Even if they ask, could you please take off your mask? You have to stay strong and say, I'm sorry, given the situation, I am not willing to take off my mask. They can't not hire you because you didn't take off the mask, right? That also shows that you're a strong character inside. You're able to hold your ground. I'm sorry, I can't take off the mask due to health reasons. Or you can say, I'm sorry, I cannot take off the mask because it is violating the COVID-19 health guidelines given to us. And if I take off my mask, yes, it is, I'm doing a disservice, or I'm not honoring you or myself and putting everyone in danger. So you can say you're not willing to take off the mask. That is perfectly fine. Even if they are not wearing mask, you as a person can say, I will be wearing my mask. That is perfectly fine. Don't worry about that. Because this pandemic situation might go on for who knows, we didn't see it coming, and I don't see it going away for quite some time as well. So by all means, stay true to your, right, and say, I will not take off my mask due to the health situation in the country, right? Then I would like to move into a bit of statistics, because I always like to have some statistics, about a presentation. And, in the presentation, it's always good to know what's coming. So last week, I asked you for a small homework. Do you remember the homework?
Yes.
What's that? What's the homework?
Making our CV properly.
Making your CV proper for what?
Marketing executive.
Marketing executive. So Gayashini remembers the job role. You would find it amazing that 80% of employers would dismiss a candidate because once they come to the interview and they ask the employer, the interview asks, so Gayashini, tell me, why do you apply for this role? Can you tell me a bit about this role? And the person on the other side, sometimes, not sometimes, 80% of the time, they don't know what position they've applied for. Just imagine this situation. You are applying for a position in a company. Okay. You get selected for that position. You go for the interview, and the interviewer asks the first question, what do you know about this position? Or, what do you know about this job role? And the person on the other side says, what is the position? Oh, I don't know anything about this position. What I have to do about this position? So that happens 80% of the time. So always, if you are selected for an interview, make sure you read about what position you're going to go for. All right, because I've come across certain interviews where I ask some questions, and the first question is something similar. I'm not going to ask what's the position that you applied for, but first question, second question, if they don't know why they're applying or anything about, sometimes one of the first questions I ask is, because I recruit for Edulink. One of the first questions I ask is, can you tell me what you know about Edulink? You have come to, apply, and you're trying to get a position at Edulink, right? So tell me, what do you know about Edulink? the prospective employer that you will be working for, quite some time, hopefully, probably for the next 5-10 years. And you'll be amazed of how many people didn't even go through the basic website or go to our Facebook page to read what is there. And even, that is, one thing. And there will be some people who have just read, what's on the website or what's on the Facebook page while they are, downstairs. They would word to word, they would say the only multinational institute in Sri Lanka to offer foreign degrees, right? And my follow-up question is, what are the universities that we work for? That is not mentioned in the Facebook page, in the description. They get stuck, right? So always do your research about, the job role on the company and all these things. The statistics would say, 80% of the interviewers would, directly dismiss, the end of the interview straight away. If you don't know what question you're applying for, you're pretty much done and dusted. They might not say that straight away to your face. They would, ask you some follow-up questions just because you came for the interview. But then again, that would be the end of your, interview right there. So why would you take out 80% of chance to knock you out? Yes, here it says, 5% of interviewers still consider you. But the thing is, 80%, there's a chance you will be rejected. So don't take a chance like that when it comes to interviews. All right. Physical interviews and video interviews, or what you call Zoom interviews, Teams interviews, online interviews or video interviews. Quite different from your traditional physical interview. Video interviews have a totally different, what you call, atmosphere and different techniques, but certain things still apply for both. So let's look at this statistic about video interviews and, their statistics. 22% of employers had used video interviews even before the pandemic hit. But nowadays, 79% or close to 80% of the employees, even Edulink, myself, we had 2 positions available probably in the last 4 months where we interviewed. Yeah, pretty much, the majority of our interviews were conducted via Zoom. Then we had 4 or 5 physical interviews where when, the situation got a bit, okay, we had 4 or 5 interviews, physical interviews, but then again, the majority was conducted online. So pretty much this 79% is true. And people have said, they would continue to have online interviews even when the pandemic has stopped, because it saves time, right? First of all, it saves time and it saves a lot of what you call cost as well. If you are having a physical interview as an interviewer, as a company, if you invite 5 or 10 people, it's not nice for them to not be catered for. You have to give them a tea, or, you have to look after them. If it's the lunchtime you are inviting them, lunch might be, needed to be provided. All these things are expenses for the company. So if it's a video interview, pretty much whoever's on the other side, the interviewee, would be basically at home like this, like you would be in the comfort of your home. So there is no what you call extra cost involved in terms of getting the interviews done, right? So we'll move on to the what you call the main part of the presentation, but okay, Gayashini, Tharindu and Malita, I want you to tell me, do you think video interviews and physical interviews are same or different? And if you're saying it's same, why do you say it's same? If you say it's different, why do you say it's different? Tharindu? Gayashini? Malita? Do you understand my question? Actually, two questions. Do you understand it?
So I think that is totally different.
Totally different. Why do you say so?
In a physical interview, we can directly monitor their expression, like how they face in the interview.
But videos are pretty much on our side in terms of, the interviewer side as well as the interviewee side. So you can still see, right? But, good comparison. Anything else that you see? Or have you had a physical or, a virtual interview anywhere?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tharindu, what do you think? Malita? Gayashini, do you have anything else to add?
No, sir.
All right. So you think it's different. Okay. So for me, a video interview and a physical interview. There are, yes.
It's like this in my company. Our boss is monitoring when he get into how he get into the room, how he sit properly. I mean that all of these things.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I understand what you're saying. I'll come to that.
So excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
So in a CV under professional qualification, where should we add qualification or degree that we are currently doing?
Education qualifications. If you have any qualifications related to your direct education, a BSc, MSc, MBA, if you're following something at the moment, let's say you are following an MBA, okay? But you already have a degree, which you finished in 2018 in University of Sabaragamu. Okay. Earlier, you had a diploma that you did at Edulink in 2016, right? So, as I said, reverse chronological order, okay? Under education, what you're currently following, the MBA. Currently following MBA at University of Sabaragamu, Sri Lanka, and what year you started can be mentioned. Year started 2018, or you can say 2020, because it's you're currently following, right? Then you go into the degree. BSc in biological science, University of let's say Ruhuna, 2018, first class. And you can also mention your GPA if you have a good GPA, or second upper, or whatever the class you have. Then 2016, Diploma in Information Systems, Edulink International Campus, Diploma in Information Systems, Edulink International Campus, 2016. Always the date has to come to the bottom. Now, whoever's looking at your thing can see, okay, she's currently following the MBA. Earlier, she had a BSc. And before that, she had a diploma. When it comes to professional qualifications, you have, different types of professional qualifications, AAT, CIM, CIMA, chartered, all these other qualifications that we call as professional qualifications. Underneath education qualifications, you can open a separate section for professional qualifications, and underneath that you can, again, it should be reverse chronological order.
Okay, so thank you.
All right. So in terms of physical interviews and what you call virtual interviews, there are similarities as well as differences. Similarities, let's talk about the similarities. Both will judge whether you get the job or not. Okay, both will be targeted to give you or filter the applicants to get the job. Pretty much same things apply. The criteria are mostly the same. How you talk, how you dress, how you look at the camera, how you answer the questions, all these things, the other person from that little gadget, what is called the camera, the other person at the other end can pretty much see all your movements, right? So they can see whether you are doing a good job or not, right? Then talking about the differences, what Gayashini said, usually even myself, if I'm in a physical interview, I look at how the person comes in through the door, how the person excuses themselves before they come in through the door, how they are dressed from top to bottom, I check, right? So all these things you can't judge in a virtual interview, as well as we don't know whether they have, when I'm facing the camera like this or looking at the screen like this, you can't see what I'm looking at in the screen. So they might be already Googling stuff while we are talking, right? Okay. So differences and similarities apart, you have to do certain things to get good marks in an interview. And at the end, what we really want is to get the highest number of marks so that we get the job apart from the other people who will be in the interview itself. Okay. Before we go into, in terms of what you call the physical interview itself, when you get a call from probably the HR, probably, the department, or someone from that company or a recruitment company calling regarding the job that you applied for, first thing is, you have to answer them well, right? Because they are inviting you for an interview. So at that time, be very courteous, right? If you can't answer the phone at that time, tell them directly, I'm sorry, I am busy right now. Can you please call me at this time, or let me call you back at this time because I am in the middle of something, or you can say I am in a meeting. Can I call you back at this time? And excuse yourself from that call, hang up, and when you get the time, when you're free, if you say 4 o'clock, call at 4 o'clock. Huh? If you say 4 and don't go calling at 6 o'clock and expect them to give you the interview, that won't happen. But being courteous can go a long way. And sometimes nowadays, it's, what you call protocol. In England, they always have what you call a phone interview first. Because there are 250 odd CVs coming in for every job. So they can't filter all the 250. Once they filter out some people from the initial CV screening, they might get about 50 people who are, good. So they can't, get all 50 into a interview. So what they do is they do a phone interview. Pretty much they will ask basic questions about the job position that you have applied for. This is where, writing the CV the way I told you to would get to more marks in this first part of the interview as well. If I remember correctly, I told you when you are writing your CV, make sure you look at the job vacancy. When you look at the job vacancy, what you do is you write and change your CV a bit based on what the vacancy advertisement says. So you have a small idea of, what this company is. I've asked you to write a CV applying for the marketing executive position at Edulink, right? And I sent you our vacancy advertisement as well. So if I call you abruptly and talk about the vacancy that you've applied for, yes, if I call you 2 weeks later, you might not remember anything. Yes, but then again, it won't be 2 weeks later. Usually about 3, 4 or maximum 1 week later, they will call you. So at that time, in the back of your mind, you remember certain things. So you can answer, okay, when they ask, hi, I'm Achinta from Edulink. You have applied for a marketing executive position at Edulink. You remember. Then you say, yes, I applied, yes. And I say, can you tell me about Edulink? Because you have done a bit of research, even at this time, you can say little things. Or you can, when they ask, what's, the basic things you have to do you know that? Because you read the vacancy, you have certain things in your head. So you can use those as points and tell them, okay, so these are the things, that was listed in the vacancy itself. And then you can slowly flip it to them. So these were the things that were, mentioned in the vacancy advertisement. Are there anything else, right? You flip the question on the person that is calling, right? So at this point, if he gives you more information about what you need to do, you remember it for the interview. All right. So phone interview is quite important. And then again, when they confirm a date for the interview, it is very important that when they say, okay, Gayashini, can you come on the 1st of September for an interview at 3 o'clock, right? When they say that, you have to know whether you're free at that day. You can't just first say, no, I will come. Don't worry, I will clear my schedule. Don't make yourself too available as well. You can always say, could you give me a second? Let me check my calendar and let you. Even if you don't have anything, even if you're jobless, right? Even if you're at home, tell them, could you please give me a minute so that I could check my calendar and let you know, right? That gives the impression for the person on the other end, you are a very punctual man, as well as the word that I'm looking for is structured, right? So you always have a structure. That is a good thing in terms of going for a, company, if you're very structured and formal, organized person, right? So you can always say that, let me check my calendar and let you know. So if they say 4 o'clock, if you don't have anything, just tell them, you don't, you'll be able to come. But let's say you have something at 3:30 and 4 o'clock might be a problem. Okay. So at that time, what do you do? Gayashini, Tharindu, Malita. you have something at 3:30 and it might drag on for a while. The interviewer has, the phone interviewer has asked, we like to schedule an interview at 4 o'clock, right? So what do you do? What do you do? Gayashini, Tharindu, are you there?
Yes, sir.
What happened? What did I ask? Gayashini?
Sir, could you please repeat it?
Sorry?
Could you please repeat?
Weren't you there?
Yes, there.
Okay, so the question is,
Yeah.
you have got a call from a prospective employer, right? So he's trying to, set up an interview at 1st of September at 4 o'clock. Let's assume it's a video call, right? A video interview. Given the situation, we can't travel around. So this person is asking you whether you're free at 4 o'clock. So what do you do first? I just told you what you have to do. What do you do?
I will
Weren't you
check
listening?
my calendar.
I'm sorry?
I will check my calendar.
All right. So are you going to check your calendar or are you going to say you're going to check your calendar?
I'm going to check my calendar. And
Yes. The thing is, if
Yeah.
you're going to check your calendar, that's good, right? But the thing is, you have to tell the person, could you please give me a minute till I check my calendar and let you know? Because it's always important that you tell this person give a hint that you're an organized person. Okay. So assume you have something at 3:30. Let's say you have Tharindu's birthday party at 3:30. Okay. You're going virtual birthday party. You can't have, birthday parties, right? You'll be arrested by the police and, who Ajit Rohana will be saying, yesterday we had an illegal birthday party at this place and we arrested 2 girls or 3 girls, illegally having birthday parties, right? So not that situation, something, let's say there's something that you have to do at 3:30. Okay. So you worry that you will not be able to go for the, have that video interview at 4 o'clock. Okay. So at that time, what do you do? Tell me. The interviewer or the HR department guy ask you whether you're free at 4. You have something at 3:30. You worry that this 3:30 engagement will, drag till 4 o'clock or very close to 4 o'clock. And you worry that you might not be able to go for the interview at 4. So what do you do at this point? The guy is on the phone. You have
I
to
say
answer.
okay.
I'm sorry?
I will say okay. I will pass.
But you have something at 3:30.
It's not essential.
If it's something essential,
If it is, I will ask for time extension. Can we do that?
yes, that's the one that I wanted to get. Assuming the 3:30 engagement is something you can postpone from your end, right? Let's say, you're going, I don't know, anything that is not essential, right? You think you can, put it, drag it bit front, or you can cancel it and put it to the next line. That is something personal, right? You can get it done anytime, right? You put that away. Or let's say this is very important that you can't change it. You can always ask the interviewer, right? The guy who's on the phone, I'm sorry, my calendar is booked at 4 o'clock. Can we do 5 o'clock? Or can we do before 3, around 2:30? You can suggest a time, and even you can go up to the extent of suggesting a new date, probably the next day. But don't say, okay, 1st of September I'm busy till 7th September. Can you put me 8th September? You're not the boss, right? You can ask to have a day next day. 2nd of September is okay, right? But then again, you can't ask for a week. Or best case scenario is you can ask the same day but a different time. But then again, you have to say, you have something around this time. So let's say he says, okay, if you can't do 4 o'clock, can we do 3:30? Your previous engagement is at 3:30, right? So if you don't say it, if he says 3:30, then you say, no, I can't do 3:30 also. That looks bad on you. All right, do you understand?
Yes.
So when you're saying you can't do 4 o'clock, you have to say, can we do, let's say, a bit earlier, around 2 o'clock, or can we do a bit later, around 4:30? Give that person some window where he can, slot you in. At that time, of course, he will say, all right, okay, we have a slot open at 2:30 or even 4:30, we can put you in. Or if there are, already people arranged for that time, he will say, we don't have slots in this day. So let me check, for the following day, 2nd of September, or he will slot you in. It is always good from your end to be firm. As I said, just like the mask, be firm. You can't do this because of, there's a previous engagement. So could you schedule me X or Y? If X is possible, he will say X is possible, we'll fit you at X. Or if Y is possible, they will say accordingly. And if both X and Y, or the times that you suggest is not available, they will fit you in for another day. That is not a huge thing. But if you are rescheduling, you have to do it well. All right. Now, the first thing is when you're going for an interview, let's say 1st of September now, all 3 of you are going for this interview. Okay? All three got selected for the interview. When you're going, first thing is, now this is the information age. No one can say, I didn't get the time to read the newspaper. Newspaper is what? Here. This is the newspaper. This is Google. This is everything. You are connected to the internet. So do your research. Can anyone tell me what do you need to research before you go for an interview? What do you think you need to research before you go for the interview? Tharindu, what do you think you need to research? Gayashini, do you have any idea of what you need to research or do your research? Tharindu, what do you think? No idea? You don't need to do any research, is it?
So about the company
Okay, about the company you need to
and the
research.
position that we are going to.
Okay, so let's say marketing executive. What kind of things are you going to research about marketing executive? Because now, this would help you with the interview next week. Next week is next Thursday, right? So what do you research about this marketing executive?
What type of marketing that organization is doing currently?
How do you research that?
Go to their website.
You can go to a website and see, if you go to a website, you can't see what they are doing in terms of marketing, right? If you go to my website, edulink.edu.lk, our website, you can't judge what I am doing in terms of marketing. Nowadays, you can always check the Facebook page. Website, obviously, information will be there about the company and what's the, if you go to Instagram, page, the LinkedIn page, you can grasp a bit of a, idea of, what their marketing strategy is and what's the direction the company is going for in this time. In terms of how you research the position, it's very easy. Yeah? You go to Google, you type in marketing executive job role. Very easy. Or if it's a marketing manager position, you go and type in marketing manager job role or head of marketing job role. You get an idea of, what the, job role requires you to do in certain, if it's executive, you get to know, okay, so what are the usual things a person in a marketing executive role have to do. You can always call few of your friends who's working probably in the company that you applied for, or even someone who's a marketing executive. Okay, call that other person and ask, Machang, you are a marketing executive, so what do you do there? So what are the things that you have to do? This person will say, in our company, I am doing these things. Someone might say, in my company, I'm a marketing executive, but the thing is, I make tea for all the team. That's all I do. Right? So don't take advice from that person, and when you go to the interview, what you have to do, I have to make tea. That would be a wrong answer. Right? So always check Google, check the company website for information about the company, the Facebook page about the company, but by heart, don't take everything and come to, let's say, our interview. And when I ask, what do you know about Edulink, don't say it's the only multinational higher education institute in Sri Lanka. Whatever, 2 lines that is on Facebook page, don't regurgitate that. That won't work. Say it in your own words. From what I know, Edulink is the only multinational higher education institute in Sri Lanka. And I think your, head office is in Dubai. And if you do a bit more research rather than just one site, you will always get more information about these things. You can come up with, Edulink is owned by the Edulink consultants. And if I know there are 3 directors, All these things you can find very easily. Yeah? On Google, it's very easy to find these things, and you can even drop a name onto the one of the directors is Dr. Misho Ravik, and the other director is Helen Mason, and all these things you can very easily find and tell. When you do that, the persons on the other end will understand this person has done some research. I personally, if I'm in the interview panel, I like a person who has, gone into depths of finding some details rather than just, what is available on the Facebook page or the web page. Because I'm the head of marketing. I'm responsible for what goes on the Facebook page or, what's on the website. So anything that is there, I already know. Don't tell me what I already know. Okay. So research about the job role, research about the company, and also do a bit of research about the usual payment range. Marketing executives, what is the range that is being paid outside in the market for a similar position? Because somewhere down the line, someone will ask, what is your salary expectation? At that time, you can't ask for 200,000 rupees with a car. And you're only applying for a marketing executive role. Marketing executives don't get 200,000 plus a car. You might get a bike if you're a marketing executive. You might, depending on the industry, you might get a bike, but then again, you will never get 200,000. So you have to do your research. As I said, if you have a friend, call him and ask, what's the normal range. But then again, with Facebook, you always know someone who knows someone. Okay, you might have a friend who knows a friend who's a marketing executive. Just ask that person to ask the other person. He will tell you. These things are very easy to find, but if you don't find them, it's very hard to get a job. All right. After research, what you need to do? Pretty much what I'm trying to say here. Tharindu, Gayashini, what do you think I'm trying to say here?
Prepare.
Not prepare. Prepare is pretty much the same thing before. Research. Wear an expensive watch or cut your nails. No, this is to say be punctual. Right? The interview is at 4. Don't come at 5 p.m. and say, I'm sorry, I got late a bit. I had a previous engagement at 3:30. It got dragged on. I'm sorry. Blah, blah, blah. Won't work. For me, if you say 4:30, you have to be there at 4:30. If you say 4, you have to be there by 4. If you're late, I'm sorry, you are out. Okay. You can be 5 minutes late. Situation dictates, you can be 5 minutes late. Other than that, you can't be late more than 5. Right? So don't go late to anything. Always better if you can reach half an hour before to the location. If it's a physical interview, try always to reach half an hour before. If the interview is at Dehiwala, always be at that place half an hour before. You will find that pretty much every place there is a place where you can wait 30 minutes. You can use the washroom, freshen up. I usually tie my tie at that place because I go at least half an hour early. I go to the reception. I ask the receptionist or whoever's at the reception, where is the washroom? Where can I use the restroom? I have a first thing is I say I'm watching the Jayasekara. I have an interview at 4 o'clock. I need to use your washroom. They would usually show us the washroom. I go to the washroom because I might be traveling in the bus. I might be traveling somewhere else. But then again, I wash my face, put the tie on, right? All these things I do at that time. Then I come out fresh. I can do the interview. Same thing for you. If you have even a video interview at 4, try to come 5-10 minutes early to the room. Check the internet connection if it's working. You know, do your freshening up, all these things. Be ready and sit down 5-10 minutes early and be ready for the interview. Right? So being punctual is crucial, because even if you are 2 minutes late, some people might cut you out. That of course depends on how crucial or critical the other person is. But then again, why be late? Right? Always be early to any engagement. Then pretty much it's universal. You have to dress to impress. All right. Dress to impress means you have to dress the appropriate appropriate dress code to the appropriate occasion. So differences between girls and boys, or ladies and gentlemen, are there. Obviously, Sri Lankan weather dictates we can't wear a full suit and a tie if you're going in a bus to a position for a physical interview. But then again, if it's a video interview, always the rule is dress more than you think would be enough, right? Dress one layer up, not one layer down. Dress one layer up. Then you, if in doubt, if the what you call the job interview vacancy states you have to wear a suit and tie, don't go with just the tie on, right? If it dictates that a suit needs to be there, wear the suit. Okay. So girls, I don't know much about girls attire. So basically these things would work. But then again, anything apart from what we call and what we assume and what we know as office wear, right? If you are not wearing something that is considered office wear, this would mean, you get knocked out. Don't go to an interview with wearing a t-shirt and denim. Pretty much that's the situation, right? Don't go with, what you call a butt short and a t-shirt. What you call, not the butt short and a t-shirt, the half t-shirts kind of thing, right? So don't wear those and go to a interview. All right. There was Malita here. Now he has vanished. Coming into the gents attire, right? So since both of you have your respective others, right? If they are going for an interview, make sure they wear the correct attire. Usually for an interview for a gent, at least full suit might not be crucial, but if you're as a man going for an interview, at least you need to have the shirt and the tie also. Okay, make sure you wear a tie at least. If you can't wear the suit, usually you don't have much suits wearing what you call interviews nowadays. So at least wear a appropriate tie. Don't have your shirt outside and go. And always have your hair done. If you are having a beard like me, make sure you go to the salon before the day that you have the interview. Either have your lines done well, trim the beard and all these things. And if you have hair like this, it's not going to work. Don't have messy hair. At least comb your hair or apply some gel and do your hairstyle well. Same thing for girls. If you have hair, do it right. Otherwise don't have messy hair wiggling about when you go to the interview. All right. So the next thing is why I found this picture specifically is this represents a usual interview, one-to-one interview. We call it one-to-one interview. We also have what you call panel interviews, where it's usually second or third stage where you get a panel interview. So in a one-to-one interview, this would be the setup. A person from the HR or the respective department would be there asking the questions, or coming in, he would be the person. And you would be the interviewee, and usually you will have one or two chairs here. Gayashini, let's assume you're going to an interview, physical interview. So when you're going to an interview, usually you have your handbag. Where would you put your handbag? And if you have a certificate file, where would you put your handbag and your certificate file? Tharindu, you also need to answer that. Malita, you won't be carrying a handbag, but you would have the certificate file. Tell me, where would you put that when you go into the interview room? Now you're in the interview room. There's a chair. Let's say there's only one chair, right? So there's a chair, or let's say there are two chairs. Okay, there are two chairs. In the picture, there is only one chair, but there are two chairs. Tharindi, where would you put your handbag and the certificate file? Dashini, where would you put your handbag and certificate file? Malita, where would you put your certificate file?
So certificate file definitely on the table.
Okay.
And the handbag beside the chair.
Okay. Tharindi, where would you put it?
Certificate is take my hand and my handbag, drop in nearby chair on the floor.
Malita, okay. Malita, where would you put your handbag? Malita? All right. So there's one golden rule in interviewers, right?
So can we bring the handbag when we are coming into the room?
The thing is this: if you are, let's say, going to an interview, and if you don't have a handbag, where are you going to, keep your belongings? Usually, you have your small pack of makeup and all the other, purse and all these things you have. Right?
No, I mean we can keep the handbag out of the room.
Yes, if you have a reception, you can always ask the receptionist to hold on for the bag, right? But let's say there is no reception. Oh, you feel uncomfortable leaving your bag outside. Right? Then, of course, you have to take it inside. Okay. So once you are inside, you own only one piece of furniture. Let's say you have two chairs here. And you select the chair on the right-hand side, this chair. Okay. Just give me a second. Okay. Let's say there is another chair here, like this. Okay. This is a chair, okay? Mega පුටුවක් කියලා හිතන්නේ. පුටුව. Right? So you have two chairs and you choose this chair to sit on. This is the only chair, the only furniture that you own. You don't own and you don't have rights for the table. You can't put your certificate file, you can't put your hands like this, you can't put your certificate file on the table? No. Certificate file goes on your lap. You can have it in your hand on your lap, or you can put it on your lap. The handbag, I don't have a handbag. Let's assume this is a handbag. Handbag goes on the side onto the floor. On the floor. Beside you, as Gayashin said, beside you on the floor. It can't go onto this chair. You can't put it on this chair also, because you've chosen this chair as the one piece of furniture that you own. You can only sit on it. You can't put things and sit on the other one as well. And you cannot put things on the other chair. You can put your handbag here. This is Gayashin's handbag. Okay. The certificate file is here on your lap. All right. Understood? Understood?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes.
So you can't touch the table. Earlier, when I was, first having my interviews back in, let's say, 2012, 11, right? They used to say, if you drag the chair, let's say 5 inches back, you have to squeeze in. You can't pull it back like this. Nowadays, that is not the case. If you drag the chair back and you sit, and if you feel, you're a bit too far away from the table, you can always adjust the chair a bit. But then again, when you're done with the interview, when you're walking out, always make sure you put the chair back inside where it was, right? Always make the chair when you go. So before that, the handbag goes on the side, the certificate file goes on the lap. That applies for Malita as well, right? Doesn't mean because you are a man, you can put the certificate file on the table. No, everything goes on your lap. And if they ask for the certificate file only, you produce it, right? It's not you sit down and before they ask any question, sir, my certificates. No, you don't do that. If they ask, can I see your certificates? Then only you give your certificate file with 2 hands. You give it like this, right? Whether they take it with 1 hand, that is up to them. But if you are give it with 2 hands. And if they are giving it back, always take it with 2 hands. All right. So that is the certificate file. Usually nowadays, I've conducted 20 odd physical interviews, and many virtual interviews. It's impossible to check your certificates unless you ask them to show it like, okay, this is my this certificate, this is my this certificate. It's impossible for you to check the certificates. But then again, even for the physical interviews, I haven't checked the certificate file of any of those. Nowadays, you usually don't check it, right? Unless you are really hired, where you put the certificates into the personal file. You don't check the certificates. You only, the thing is this, when you face the interview, the guy on the other side knows whether you have an MBA or you don't have an MBA. Even if you have an MBA, is it, inside you, or it's just a certificate? The other person can judge, right? Any questions about sitting and how far you have to sit? Any questions? Let's say you have 2 bags. Where do you put the 2 bags? Any questions of that? I assume there are no questions. I'm moving forward. Yeah? All right. So when you come inside from the door, make sure you know, first of all, if someone doesn't open the door for you, right, make sure you knock 3 times or 4 times. That is up to you, whether you knock once or twice, 3 times, up to you, but usually knock. And you can always say, excuse me, or you know, if you know the person's name who's, you know, going to interview, Mr. Vijayavardhanam, or you know, whatever, right, you can say the name and excuse yourself, and if they say come in, you can go inside, right? If someone opens the door for you, then of course that means, you know, they are comfortable to receive you. But then again, don't just go straight in. Always, you know, stop by the door and look at them. If they give you a nod or ask you to come, then go inside, grab the chair. And if you know, given the current situation, we don't shake hands, but if you have a chance, by all means, before you sit, say, I am so and so, and shake the hand. Let's say 3 years down the line, hopefully the pandemic is not there, you can shake hands with other people. You have to do it before you sit down. So always, it's always good to say, I'm Achinta, you know, shake the person's hand. They will usually say, I'm Lalit Gunawardhana, or I'm, you know, X so and so, right? So you know the people who are there. One-to-one interview is just one person. If there are, let's say, 3 people, you'll always have to say, I'm Achinta. They will shake hands and they'll say, I'm Milanta. You shake the other person's hand, they'll say, I'm Tharindu. And the other person, you shake your hand, you shake their hand. You always say, I'm Achinta, I'm Achinta, I'm Achinta. It doesn't matter how many times you have to say it. You know, you have to say it and get to know all these 3 people and have, you know, the names in your head who's there. Right? You introduce yourself so that you can get to know the people on the other side, so that when they ask a question from you, let's say Tharindu asks a question from you, so tell me about yourself, you can always start, yes, Tharindu. So talking about me, right, when you say their name, they feel, damn, this person knows my name. They feel at ease, and they also, you know, want to listen to you. If you say, let's see, even though you know this person's name, talking about me, blah, 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 it's not for them. They feel like it's not for them. But when you add that small thing, Tharindu, when I say like Tharindi, like immediately Tharindi's like senses go, someone said my name. She's going to listen more. When I say Gayashini, like it's automatic, happens, she's going to listen more. Same thing with an interview. You get to know the people's name so that you can answer with their name. Right? So I've put this picture so that you always shake hands before you sit down. And always, you know, have an understanding for what is FAQ. Frequently asked questions. Always have an idea about, you know, some frequently asked questions. Depending on the role, you know, that you're applying for, the questions might differ, but there are basic questions like, you know, tell me about yourself. What do you know about this role? How can you fit to this role? Why do you want to join our company? There are certain questions that are always being asked in an interview, right? Let's say it's a marketing position, right? They will ask, you know, what do you know about digital marketing? What do you know about marketing? What experience do you have marketing? These are frequently asked questions that come in an interview. So these things you have to be ready. Otherwise, you know, if they ask a question like that and you stutter, because these are what you call basic questions. You have to be ready to answer such a question. If you can't even answer that question, obviously things will not look good for you. So I have certain questions that are usually asked in an interview. As I said, you know, the most asked question is, tell me about you. So you usually have a small description about you that highlights certain points about yourself that reflects good on this position. Right? Marketing executive, you can say small things about, what you have done in the past that, increased the marketing image or, increase their sales. You can say, I've been doing, on the side, probably, you are doing some other role, but then again, you are applying for a marketing role. You can say, I've been, running the Facebook page of one of my friends who's having a online store on Facebook. So I've been helping her with the marketing. I've been creating the ads, all these things, add values to you as a person because you've been doing a bit of marketing on the side, right? So these small things, the second question, describe yourself, pretty much tell me about yourself and describe yourself are pretty similar, but then again, don't try to say the same things. If you, have a CV, don't say the same things in the CV. Try to put something that is not there in the CV that, adds value to yourself. Okay, that's what makes you unique. Then, of course, doing the research about the company comes in handy for the fourth question. Why do you want to work here? Try to find a person who actually works, let's say Edulink. If you are trying to work at Edulink, try to find a person who is working at Edulink and ask him, how's the work culture there? Something small as that could give you an insight. I really like, that Edulink is trying, the vision is changing the future. They are doing certain things that is close to my heart. They're doing the Do It Right series and the First Impression series, free set of webinars that gives the chance for everyone to gain free knowledge so that, they could change their future. So that is something that I really like, and I would like to be a part of Edulink because of that. So this is a very good answer if you are asked the question about why do you want to work here, right? So there are certain questions here, and sometimes you are asked, what is your greatest, what motivates you, what is your, biggest strength, all these things. And there are trick questions as well. Sometimes they ask, what is your greatest weakness, right? At that time, don't say, I feel, weak, or let's say I feel lost for energy around 3 o'clock in the evening. I can't work at 4 p.m. I have a huge headache that comes around 4 o'clock. I don't feel any energy at that time. So don't say those kind of things there. Weaknesses, as in, you can say, I feel very, passionate about, helping the entrepreneurs. Sometimes I, spend money on, helping entrepreneurs. Try to cover up a weakness with something that would add value to you. All right. The 10th question is there. What is your greatest weakness? Right. Anything that you want to ask, and if you want to answer any of these questions. No questions, I'm moving forward. So the next thing is unique selling points, or we call it USPs. Every company has their USPs as well as every person has their USPs, unique selling points. So here the question was asked, what makes you unique? So always have something that you can sell about yourself, right? In an interview, it's okay to brag about yourself. You can say, I'm helping my friend, Tarushi run her, online business on Facebook. I'm doing all the advertising for her. I do the creatives, I do, the planning, I do the running of Facebook ads, and I also do the calling outs when, the leads come in. I do all of that because I have a passion for marketing. Right? Those things you sell yourself very well. That is called selling your USPs. So make sure you have certain USPs or unique selling points that relate to the job position that you are trying to apply. Okay. So that is, USPs. Having USPs that is not related to what you're trying to apply. Okay. That could happen, but then again, you have to find a way to connect it. If you connect it, then it would be okay. All right. What is this? Anyone? Anyone have an idea what is this? All right. This is to show you have to be confident in your interview. When you ask questions, use your hands, have hand gestures. I have done, I'm doing the ad creative, I'm running the ads, I'm calling out the leads, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So all of these things I'm doing by myself. Have hand gestures. Be confident when you're answering the questions. If you're not confident in answering any question, obviously you will get low marks and you will not pass the interview. Even if something you have to make up, you make it up with quite good confidence, right? Let's say you don't know the answer for a question. At that time, don't lie from the top of your head. Right? If you don't know something, just tell them, I'm sorry, I don't know that, but I can find it out for you. Right? Or if you don't know something directly to that, you can say, I don't know exactly how that works, but I know how something that is related to that works, and that works like this, right? Someone might ask, let's say you are going for the, marketing interview that is coming up on Thursday. I might ask, how do you have you created lookalike audiences, right? So then, of course, if you don't know lookalike audiences, don't try to, make up things, because the person on the other end might know certain things about lookalike audiences, and if you lie, you will get low marks. So it's always better to say, I don't know how to create lookalike audiences, but then again, I know how to create a very targeted audience. So I can use that knowledge to, create a lookalike audience, something like that. If you don't know, just say don't know and try to convince that, from something that you can relate to that and give an answer like that. All right. Last, before the last, right? Usually they will ask at the end of a good interview, any good interview, the last question they would ask is, do you have anything to ask from us? Right? At that time, the worst answer. Gayashini, Tharindu, if someone asks you in an interview, do you have any questions for us? What do you think you should do? Ask questions or not ask questions? Gayashini, Tharindu, have you fallen asleep?
No.
Are you snoring?
No.
So what's the answer to the question? In an interview, at the end of the interviewer asks Gayashini, do you have any questions for us? At that time, what would be your answer? Do you think asking a question is good, or do you think not asking a question is good?
Not asking question is good.
Not asking questions. Tharindu, what do you think? Tharindu?
Questions.
Huh?
Asking questions.
Asking questions. Okay. So what kind of questions do you have to ask? What kind of questions do you have to ask? You can't see from the screen now. Okay. So Gayashini, it's always good to ask at least 3 questions. Not 1, not 2, but 3. Try to ask at least, don't ask 10 questions. Okay. That's the other thing. Don't ask too many questions from the interviewer. Maximum of 3 questions you can ask from the interview, but at least 1 question needs to be asked. Right? Some of the sample questions that you could ask is, when you ask a question, it has to be a very specific question that gets you something about the position as well. So the question you ask has to give something meaningful as an answer. When they answer, they have to give something that is meaningful to you, as well as that question needs to portray that you are a very bright person. Like, for example, this question: what are the characteristics of someone who would succeed in this role? Seems like a very simple question, but then again, in depth, it is a very bright question. You are asking, what are the characteristics of a person who would succeed in this role? When you ask that question, the person from the other end has to answer it. Right? The interviewer has to answer his own question. So then he has to tell certain things. This person, because this is a digital marketing, environment, the person needs to know digital marketing as well as, phone etiquette. We have to do a lot of call outs to people. So they will answer. So the bright thing about this question is you are taking from the interviewer himself what are the qualities they are looking for in a person who would be successful if selected, right? So even if you're selected for this role now, you're already having certain ideas about, okay, so this role, he has to do this, right? Okay, so, all right, this 6th question. What does the career path look for someone in this role look like? I'm pretty much asking about the career advancement. So if you ask this question, the person on the other end knows that you're not here for just this role. You are here to stay for a long time and go the distance. We say, here for a long time and you want to go up the career ladder as well. Right? Then this 5th question, very important. If I were selected for this job, how would my performance be measured? So you are talking about measuring your performance in the interview itself. Right? That shows you are a very bright person and you care about how your performance is measured, because at the end of the day, you have to perform. And if they, let's say, they measure the performance in the number of, let's say you go to pick grapes, right? In the interview, you don't ask this question. You assume you are measured your performance based on the weight of grapes that you pick per day. But if their measurement is number of, number of grapes, the gedigana, midi gedigana anuwana, right? So you might think you have performed well, but in their measurement, you have not performed well. And at the end of 6 months, 7 months down the line, you ask, why are you not giving me good salary increments, all these things? They say you are not performing, and you are saying, no, I performed very well. Look at the weights that I picked. And they say, we are not measuring the weight, we are only counting the number of grapes. See, now your expectation and their expectation are different. So always good to clarify these things ahead of time. Right? So these are the things that you have to do during the interview. Certain things you do before the interview. Like this. Research and getting dressed is before the interview. You don't get dressed while you're there, right? So getting dressed and researching about the job role and the interview, it is before the interview. Then you do during the interview. These are the things. You know your furniture limits. You have a good firm handshake. You know the answers to the frequently asked questions. You sell your unique selling points. You act confidently. Then you end up by asking 2 or 3 very good questions. One question you can ask here is, can you tell me the best recruit you had for the last 2 years? Or you can ask, one of the brilliant questions is, how long have you worked here and why do you like working here? If that person says, I've only worked here for 6 months, then you understand that, people don't stay here for a long time. If this person says, I've been here for the last 5 years and I love, how the, boss treats their employees, that means this culture has people, bonded to the company that they work for a long time. And so it's a good, indication that it's a good company to be, right? So you can ask, who's the best recruit you had for the last 2 years? Then they would say, okay, this person is the best person that I've recruited. You can ask, why, opposite question, follow-up question is, who is the worst recruit you had for the last 2 years? Then they would say, that person left and he was like this and this. Then you get an understanding of who not to be in this company, right? Very strategic questions gives you strategic insights into the company and the job role you're going to work. So this is during the interview. So after the interview, you have to do certain things as well. So this is one thing that you have to do after the interview. You have to send a thank you note, thank you email, or thank you. If it's WhatsApp based, the conversation happened WhatsApp based, you have to send a thank you message or a thank you mail. So you have to do it within 24 hours, or we say don't wait till 48 hours. Do it probably within the window of, following day, send the message out the following day. And if there were, let's say, as I said, only one person, you can thank one person. But if there were 2 people involved in the conversation, make sure that you thank all of these people, as well as if you had certain blunders, if you made mistakes, try to correct those mistakes in the email itself, and always highlight your plus points. You could also make sure that you put some final touches on what happened yesterday. So as I said, these are the points that would really make me do good in this role, as well as as you said, these things. I also have these things. So this is why I think you should hire me. Waiting for a good response from you. Thank you, and you end it. But then again, don't use these things. Don't do certain things, grammatically incorrect things. Don't do that. Then don't be too casual. Don't put too many emojis into your formal email. Don't do that, and don't send inappropriate pictures and stuff. And don't, this is stalking your interviewers pretty much. Don't go into their social media profiles and say hi to them on their social media profiles just because you had an interaction on the interview panel, right? So that pretty much sums it up. But then again, I need to tell you one thing. This is, always say thank you when you finish the interview also. When they say, all right, we'll let you know, and that is usually the ending of an interview. You get up and you thank these people. If you have the, timing is right, also shake their hand and say thank you to each of these people. Go out the door and close the door slowly and walk out confidently. All right. The thank you note at the following day is also a part of that thank you. But then again, always good to thank your interviewers face to face. All right. That is mastering the art of interviews. If you do these things, obviously you will score good marks and you will get hired in your next job positions that you apply for. But the question remains, do you have questions? All right, I actually forgot to say one thing. Let's say you are going for a video interview, virtual interview, right? So don't underestimate that interview also, right? So don't have, let's say, a very nice top and your shorts that you wear for the home. Okay, don't do that. Don't have a shirt and tie and wear the sarong on the bottom. Okay, don't do that. Make an effort to get ready. Right? If I'm going into an interview as an interviewer, I still have my trousers on, shoes on, shirt, tie. I usually wear the blazer. I wear the blazer, and I also go into fixing my hair with gel, and I also go into the smallest detail of applying perfume. Just like I would go for a physical interview as an interviewer, I would go to that extent because that would give me the feeling that I am having an interview. I would expect the same from you guys as the interviewees as well, because you never know if the person at the other end says, have you been preparing for this interview? You would say, yes, I've prepared. Can you tell me about certain things about this company? You say all these things that you found on internet, and he asks again, are you really prepared for this interview? You said, yes, I worn my top and all these things. You brag about yourself, and he says, can you stand up? And you can't stand up because you're wearing your mini shorts that you wear for home, or you're wearing a sarong, right? You're screwed, right? Because you didn't go that extra mile of getting ready for an interview. If you were going for an interview in physically, right, you would make that effort to wear the appropriate attire. So have that same level of preparation when you do the virtual interview also. Then you don't have anything to worry about. You might look like a fool to the people in the house wearing full attire, or a mini office skirt and office blouse and all these things, sitting in front of a computer where we know only the top part will be shown. But you never know if they ask you to stand up, right? They will say, okay, if you stand up, we will hire you. You can't get up, right, if you're not wearing proper attire. But if you are wearing proper attire, you don't need to worry. All right. Okay. So any questions before we wind up? Any questions?
So next day mock interview also an assignment or no?
Yes, that will be an assignment, right? So before that, I want you to send the application, basically your CV, prepared for that vacancy advertisement that I gave you last week. You have to mold your CV to that position, right? You need to fill in certain fake details, right? Because it's a marketing position. You have to show that you were working in marketing, but then again you have to follow the procedure or the guidelines I gave you. It has to be, work experience have to be reverse chronological. Education, reverse chronological. Right? Certain things that I asked you to do should be there. Your personal details, how you put it, exactly as I told you. So you need to send me that CV also. Next week, I will try to get few other people as interviewers for this interview, mock interview that we will have for a marketing executive. You will be given marks just like last week where you were given marks for presentation. So prepare yourself for a virtual interview like this. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So if you don't have any questions, shall we wind up for today?
Okay, sir.
All right then. Have a good night and stay safe.
Good night, sir. Thank you.
Nice.
Good night. Bye-bye.